everybody, welcome back to another episode at Push the Edge. I am your host, Lee Hall, and today I want to tell you about a really interesting trip that landed me in what is definitely the best bookstore in the state of Wyoming. But honestly, I'm thinking it's the best bookstore I've ever been in my entire life, and I have to tell you about it. Okay, so let me explain. Tell you a little bit about how I landed up at Mad Dog and the Pilgram Booksellers. Now, a little bit of story here. So I live in Colorado and I am on my way to Lander, Wyoming, where I'm going. I did already actually gave a talk at TEDx Lander just recently. And as I'm driving, I'm sort of in the final stretch, like the last hour. And during this last hour, on the way into Lander, coming up from Colorado, the direction, the way that I was going, it starts to get pretty desolate. And you start to see not a lot of people. It's not that you don't see anybody, but it's definitely, you end up on a highway where you really just don't want to break down, right? Particularly at night. It wasn't nighttime, it was the middle of the day. But anyways, along the way, I saw a sign that indicated that there was a bookstore of some sort. But you have to understand, this is out in the middle of nowhere. I've already driven on this stretch in this particular zone, like within 20 miles of this bookstore. I've already driven through a ghost town, the town of Jeffrey City, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I saw this sign to turn off for a bookstore, but it didn't really look like there would be a bookstore there so much as like it might be the end of my life if I turned off. It was very isolated, didn't look like a traditional bookstore or anything like that. So I was like, you know what, never mind, I'm going to skip this for now. I was by myself. My boyfriend was going to be meeting me out there. And I was like, we can investigate this and potentially stop on the way back, right, when I have somebody with me. So go on to Lander. And by the way, if you've never been to Lander, Wyoming, just highly recommend it. Just an awesome, funky town. Can do a separate video about that. But that night in Lander, I had dinner with a friend. And I asked her, I said, I saw, right, this turnoff for this bookstore. Like, what's going on? Like, is that like a legitimate thing? And even though she's from that area and she spent most of her life in that area, she'd never been to this bookstore. But she had heard about it and she just said, yes, you need to go. It's absolutely fabulous. There's these two women who run it and they're amazing. They're supposed to be just these incredible women. And she's like, and also there's like sheep that run around on the property and she's like, and they sell eggs. So great. Okay, fine. We'll go. On the way back, we will go. So we go. It is from Lander, maybe like a 40-ish mile drive, 40-ish miles, 40-minute drive. Okay, super easy. And actually, I was able to use the GPS. If you type in Mad Dog and the Pilgram Booksellers, it'll take you there. And so I got there, and it was coming in, you're coming in on, I'm pretty sure it was a dirt road and lots of broken down buildings and dilapidated structures, but you can kind of drive back a little ways and there's a gate and it says, because they have sheep and dogs and probably other animals back there. I mean, chickens, obviously, because they sell eggs. And so it's gated off and there's a fence and it says it's open and there's even a sign on the road where you turn off to let you know you're in the right place. And so we went on back and, you can see here, I took a picture of this sign that's in the bookstore so that you can get a little bit of a sense of who they are, right? They specialize in hard to find, out of print, interesting books. And they have been in Wyoming since 2000. Okay. So, and they tell you they are in the middle of nowhere in Sweetwater Station, Wyoming. It is truly the middle of nowhere. Okay. And so it tells you they're at the junction of Highway 789 and Highway 135. But like I said, if you type it in, Mad Dog and the Pilgram Booksellers, Sweetwater Station, Wyoming, it will come up. It will map you there. There's nothing within 40 miles. There's no gas within 40 miles. There's no restaurants within 40 miles. There is a rest stop, like right 2 seconds down the road. So you can use a rest stop. So yeah, and then they also have fresh eggs, and I did buy those, and I am currently just eating the heck out of them, and they are fantastic. And they have sheep. We did not go and see the sheep. It was really cold. It was really windy. I didn't want to hang around outside. I was ready to get back to the car when I was outside. I didn't want to be outside. And so, but what one of the owners said is that they do sheep rescue. And so they've got like a lot of blind sheep, maybe deaf sheep, right? They do sheep rescue. So it's really just absolutely incredible. So what makes this bookstore so amazing, right? So you can see here, a shot of what this bookstore looks like. It's 2 stories. And when we came in, nobody was in the bookstore, right? It was open. The door was open. We turned on the lights. There was a little note that said, hey, if you need to buy something, if questions, need help, I'm out in the pasture. There's a number. Give me a call. But eventually we met Polly. Polly showed up, and she was fantastic. We were on the 2nd floor when Polly showed up. And, she just, yelled out hello, and we yelled out, we're upstairs. And she came upstairs, and we were in this bookstore for 90 minutes. And easily 30 to 45 of that, I feel like, I could be wrong here, but easily 30 minutes we spent talking to Polly. Not all at once. We had a lovely conversation upstairs where she gave us like a lay of the land and it sort of explained how the bookstore works. She has her own way of designing it. But just so you know, upstairs, we did find there is a whole section devoted to pirates, which I thought was really cool. And then, right, so she's got all kinds of stuff. She has a kids section, she has fiction, she has nonfiction, but she's got it grouped together in her own way. It makes sense once you talk to her. She can point you in the direction of anything that you need. This place is just incredible. So yeah, we had a conversation with her upstairs and then talked to her again downstairs. And I'm a firm believer when you're in a bookstore in general, but especially when you're in one that is as special as this, that you have to, you don't just leave with a book, right? You let the book find you, okay? You let the book find you. And even though there was a card catalog in this bookstore, I did not, get to use the card catalog to locate a book, but it is really cool that there's a card catalog in this bookstore. But I really just I don't know how to explain it, right? You just let the book find you, right? And Polly even said this, right? The book has to speak to you, right? You can't just pick out a book and say, this is the book I'm going to take home. You have to have this connection with whatever book or books you're taking home. And so eventually I made my way down to the cookbook section because I love cookbooks. And her and I had this conversation, and she told me, I can't remember who she said that she knew that did this, but she knew someone who, I want to say it was her mother, but I could be wrong here, who would read cookbooks. And I used to totally be into reading cookbooks. Not just, sort of like the background, like sometimes authors will put in like this background information in the books, but I mean like reading all of that, but reading all the recipes. Like I love to do that. And so she told me they had a collection of cookbooks downstairs. And so eventually I made my way back downstairs and found the cookbooks. And I found the coolest cookbook. I am so excited about this. I haven't made anything from it yet, but I am going to be making actually a lot of things from it. Published in about, I think 1986, if I'm remembering right. But mid-80s, it is the Firewoman's Cookbook for the Jeffrey City Fire Department in Jeffrey City, Wyoming. Now, Jeffrey City, Wyoming is just right down the road. So it is, as you're going, I was going to be driving back through Jeffrey City on the way home, okay, to Colorado. And it is a ghost town. Nobody lives there. I shouldn't say nobody lives there. There are, I think, I think there's a cafe that's still there. I think that's where the Potter is. There's a pottery place that is currently closed, but will hopefully be back up and running again soon. Also looks really cool and amazing. Totally bummed I couldn't stop there. But in general, this is considered a ghost town, right? Jeffrey City, Wyoming is considered a ghost town. It used to be, back in the 70s and 80s, a total boom town, like a wild, wild west kind of a thing, where they had a uranium mine, and that mine got shut down. And when the mine got shut down, like everybody just left. So there used to be somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 people there in its heyday. It was really considered a booming town for that time and for the state of Wyoming. And now there's nobody there. So this book, I was just kind of going through the cookbook section, and I just randomly was grabbing books and looking at them. And I just randomly pulled this book out. All I could see was the red spine. I couldn't see anything of it. And I just thought, this is amazing. And so these are all women who, when this book was published, they did not live in Jeffrey City anymore, but they had previously. And so this was a collection of their recipes. And there are like some amazing like fudge and brownie. There's a Coke cake recipe in here. Like there's other stuff, but honestly, I think I've just been looking at the desserts the whole time. So I am super excited to be totally making stuff out of this Firewoman's cookbook and starting that up in the next couple of weeks. So if you are ever out in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming at Sweetwater Station, I cannot recommend this bookstore enough. I got some eggs, like I said, on the way out, $3.50 for a dozen. They are gorgeous, gorgeous eggs. They're fantastic. They're delicious. And I'm going to go through them way too fast and be sad that I don't have them anymore and that I can't just run out to Sweetwater Station and get more eggs. It is an incredible adventure. You get to meet some incredible women. You get to see an incredible, beautiful location. And you get to see what I think is probably definitely the best bookstore in Wyoming, if not the best bookstore I have ever been in my entire life.